You can check out the settings in the loading screen there, so you can make sure that it is running smoothly on your computer. If it doesn't seem to be working quite as perfectly, please feel free to reduce the settings there. By default, they should be set at high or medium, so it shouldn't be too much of a problem. But also we have a little menu screen there with keybinds. As you can see, it does appear in the beginning of the game right as you load into it, and also in the menu screen, if you click exit, where you see save and load and all the different settings. So if you ever forget about any of the keybinds, whatever any keys do, and where to find different features, just press escape. They're all going to be right there for you. So as you load into the game does prompt you to go ahead and select any lot that you want to start building on. They are highlighted in orange as you start the game. We currently have different sizes available in different locations. So as you select one of them, the others are going to be disappearing, so you don't have to stare at a bunch of orange squares. There is quite a vast area in our game where you can start building on. There will be more lots available and more different sizes. For now, this is just the beginning. You can use the keybinds on H key to hide the menu so you can look at nature, and the G key does allow you to hide the boundaries of the lot. Those are the lines that you can see around your screen right now. You can hide them if they become an eyesore, but they do become quite convenient when you start building or landscaping somewhere closer to the edges, so you can see where it is. At the top of the screen there, you can see the gizmo menu. So that is the little arrow and rotation and scaling unit that you have in the game to manipulate any of the objects that you pull out of the inventory. You can change the values and the step of the scale, move and rotate, so you can manipulate them at different degrees, different amounts. For things like walls and corners, rotating things by 15 degrees can be not quite so convenient, so changing the value to 45 or 90 degrees to make it quicker and snappier and easier for you, that's definitely an option. Changing the scale, it is in percentages right now, so 25, that's 25% of the scale of the item. 0.5 is a setting that you can use for really precise scaling. And when you select 100 for scale, that is exactly 100% of the item, so it would be doubling that. Now we are going to go and show you how it is to build the houses. We have beautiful area on the beach with our ocean, and we decided to show you how to build a house that looks somewhat like this beach house inspiration photo that we found. You can build right on the edge of the ocean, and you can have columns and piers going right into the water, which is really quite beautiful. In our game we do have some convenience features like snapping, copy and pasting, so if you have already created some things, scaled them, made sure they fit and everything, you can hold the left Alt key and use the arrow keys to copy selected object and move it over to the new location, so you don't have to pull out and rescale, resize, reshape the items again and again. You can just copy and pull it over. We have a built-in snapping system, so when you're copying and moving objects, or when you're scaling them to fit your build, it's easier. You don't have to zoom in and align them really precisely. The snapping feature is going to take care of that. And as you can see, we are constantly using the gizmo feature. That is the only way to move objects in our game right now. It is kind of like a Lego building system where you have different building blocks and you constantly pull them out of your inventory or copy and paste them and snap them together to create a building. And we have also a design feature, as you can see right now. There are different materials on each side of every building part. As you can see, you can copy textures as well, not just objects. You can copy materials from different items, and as you're building your house, you can decide for each part which color it's going to be, what texture it's going to use, and everything like that. Recoloring and retexturing different sides of the building just could not be easier, because every single part is very customizable. On different sides you can select different textures and materials. And as you can see, we have different corners available for you to do as well. It's not just a boring 90-degree corner. Slightly off to the left, we do have 45-degree corners available in-game already. You can pull them out pre-made for you, so you don't have to worry about perfect alignment and the amount of degrees there. And when it comes to customization and scalability, pretty much any item in-game, every building part, including windows and doors, can be scaled. As you can see here, we have pulled out a smaller window from our inventory, and using the scaling feature made it just as big as the walls. So they are all 3 meter tall, and that is our 45-degree corner that I was mentioning earlier. And you can see how easy it is just to pull it out, snap it in place in different positions. If it doesn't snap perfectly from the first try, just give it a little nudge and it will snap right in. So as you could have seen there, we have window that I'm just copying over, and then there is just a little gap between the corner and the window that I'm filling in with additional little part of the wall. So it's just like Legos. You are using different blocks and connecting them together. And that is the opposite side of our building right now. I'm going to show you how you can use different kinds of meshes to create interesting things. So that is actually an item that's called a wall. I have scaled it down, and now I'm going to use a very simple rectangular wall to create planters outside of our beautiful home. So the same item can be used for many different purposes, because everything is so customizable and scalable. You can use them for anything you can possibly imagine. So if you need planters outside that are of a different shape than it is provided in meshes in game, you can totally make your own just by using walls or blocks or different kind of base meshes and just move them around. We don't have currently physics turned on in game, so it's really your imagination is the limit. And as you've seen there, I just copied the material from the outside of the house to color all the walls or all the little sections. Each side, because it is practically just a narrow cube, each side has a different material, so depending on your situation you can totally recolor it differently. And when it comes to customizability, the plants are really no exception. As you can see here, I'm using a big tree and just scaling it down to create cute little turquoise bushes right next to the entrance of the house. You can scale them, you can rotate them, you can sink them into the ground. And again, if you have any questions at all, drop them down into the comments below. I'm going to be answering all the questions at the end of the stream. The video might be pre-recorded, but I am not. I'm going to be here. I'm going to be talking to you guys, and I'm really happy to see all the viewers. So right now in the video, as you can see, I have copied the walls over onto the right hand side, and you can see the ground there is just a tiny bit too high, so I'm using our landscape tools to lower it down and using the smoothing tool to make it more or less even. If you take the regular surface tool, which is just like the spade you see the top item there, you can dig into the ground just by holding shift, and you can raise the ground without shift, just left mouse button. If you do mess up anything within the landscaping, you can hold Ctrl Z, don't just press it, hold it, and it will gradually reverse anything you've done. We have lots of interesting plants right now, well, not as many as we would like. All the meshes and all the plants, as well as textures and materials in our game, we are going to have a lot more than you can see right now. As it is a different planet, a planet of Trinity, we tried creating as many different varieties of funky little trees and bushes and even mushrooms. And again, we're going to be adding a lot more in the future. Now I've simply copied and pasted a few of identical ferns, and just to make them different, I'm going to add variation just by using our scale and rotation features. Our little gizmo is very useful. That is your primary tool in the game, and it can have a lot of different functions. So I'm just going to copy that over onto the right hand side. Depending on the speed you select in the move, it's going to move objects with different speeds, so that is something you can expect to use quite often. Different degrees of precision. And right now I'm going to use a little block, just a simple base block. I'm going to create a road that leads up to the house, so when you step outside you don't have to step on the sand right away. Just take it out of the inventory, rescale it however it fits. As you can see right now, the scale was a little too high, so I reduced the scaling parameter to make the scale a bit more easy to control. Lower it into the ground, so to create a little step. And now we're going to increase the scale parameter and extend it outwards to create a little road. Now the basic concrete look is not really all that stylish, so we're going to go ahead and use our design feature. Select the material that is at the top, find the outdoor brick material, And you can actually rescale the textures within the materials to avoid repetition, to avoid them being too small or too large. You can do a lot of different manipulations within the design menu, as well as brightness, color, saturation. All the different sides do highlight in orange when you hover over the material section there, so it's easy to see which one is on which side of the item. So just to show you some of our landscaping tools, you can create little hills. You can just press hold Ctrl Z to go back on any of the changes you've made. You can use the smoothing tool to make everything nice and even. In order to make a hill, you just use left mouse button click. In order to dig a hole, you just hold shift while doing the same left mouse button click. And to even it out, use smoothing tool. Now on the right hand side of the building, as you can see, we have a deck that is going into the ocean, but it is starting a little too far. I want to extend it. So I'm pulling the deck backwards and using scale feature to extend it. As you can see, the textures on items don't deform, they don't stretch, they don't contract. You can scale however you like and the texture is going to remain beautiful. Now we are copying the road over there to connect it with the deck. And as you can see, we have a lot of sand that is covering it right now. Although realistic, it's probably not the best look you want to have in your build. So going ahead with our landscaping tools, just going to lower the ground a bit more. It might produce some little lumps and bumps, but it's all going to be smoothed out. Just going to make the deck match the size of the road, or the road matching the size of the deck. And on the edge of the deck, I thought it would be really cool to show you our custom staircase building. So in the stairs menu, we have all those individual stairs that you can use. You can very easily copy them and they're going to snap up and down. So you can create staircases of any length. So you can actually change the height of the walls you have, and that's why when you're creating second or third level and you're creating staircases to go up to those levels, the simple preset one type of staircase, one height of staircase really wouldn't be enough. So we created all these individual steps that automatically snap in lower or higher position depending on where you're going to pull them. So you can create staircases of any height, you are not restricted at all. So if you change the height of your walls, you can create very easily staircases that match them. And the next step there is adding handrails. The handrails have exactly the same snapping code in them, so just copy them over and they will snap into lower position. They will match the staircase itself. So since all of those little pieces, they are kind of separated, right now our staircase is kind of hovering above the water. We are going to use little pillars to ground it, to attach it to the deck. Now again, for now there are no physics, so don't be too nervous. It's not going to be swept into the ocean by the waves. It's going to stay in place quite safely. But for the realism purposes and for the nice look, it's really quite nice to actually do some work and ground it and attach it to something. But if you prefer to be floating, there's nothing stopping you really. We really wanted to create a game where you have the highest amount of customization. You can come up with any kind of crazy futuristic design you like. And our job is to make it possible within the game. And as I mentioned before, anything you see in the game right now is still under development. It's still a subject to change. We're working on it constantly. So if you want to see any specific feature added to the game, if you want something to be improved, you can always leave us a comment, get in touch with us either on our social media or by email or in community tab on Steam. We are always grateful for any user feedback. So as I've done on the other side, I'm just going to copy over the same thing on the right hand side. We really worked hard on realistic textures and beautiful graphics in our game, as we do understand that is really quite important when you're playing something as a building editor. You really want to have your builds and your creativity realized in as pretty a way as possible. You can even lower your camera underwater, and we are going to add more than you can see right now. It's pretty quite barren, but we are going to be continuing to work on the landscape and underwater as well. There will be some plants and fish and potentially even underwater building. So right now I'm going to ground the staircase with a pole. The poles you can use to add little supports under each step of your staircase, but in my case here, since I don't have the ground underneath to attach to, I'm going to use just a simple rectangular pole down the center of the staircase in order to attach it to the deck. Right now we only have terrestrial transport in the game, the cars and such, but once we add a ship, this is probably where you're going to have it. And of course the columns that are holding up the deck, I'm going to turn off the menu with H button, just so I can get a hold of the gizmo a little better, and move those under the columns of the staircase so everything is nice and supported. Again, it is left Alt button and any of the arrows to copy and move the copied object. Now we are going to show some interior decorating. So we've built some walls, we have designated the room to be a washroom, but we still need to put something on the walls themselves. As you can see, we have selected the side that was highlighted in orange, and we are going to go ahead and select the texture that goes with it. That is the same texture as you can see on the floor, just on the floor it was recolored. And you currently see we are selecting different textures, but on the wall those little squares, a square outline persists, and it has disappeared just now because of the normal. Normal map is quite an interesting feature. It allows you to add form to any texture, kind of faking the form and detail on otherwise completely flat mesh. It is different for any texture. As you can see currently in the menu, we have a texture and a purpley normal map. That's what I'm talking about here, the purpley kind of texture there that is paired with the texture of the brick right now. That is what's called a normal map. It's going to add definition to those individual bricks and adding little shadow underneath them. You can make that pronounced more or less strong in the menu in the design menu there is a normal map slider, which you can make stronger to make them protrude out of the wall a little more with more shadow and more definition, or you can reduce it to 0 if you want the texture to be completely flat. That's actually what I'm going to do here in this demonstration. I'm going to make it look like tile. So right now, even though we don't have a huge selection of textures available, it is very easily possible to change them so much. You can create something new and different from the small selection that is available. So I have currently selected a brick texture from our outdoor menu. I'm going to make it shiny and reflective, and change the color with the slider below, make it a bit brighter. The metallic feature really does add those beautiful reflections, as you can see right now, some items reflecting in it. And you can change the color of any texture with that color wheel. So just copy any texture you like, select the next part, find the right side, and apply it. The way you see we have built the tinted glass windows there, you can recolor everything, even glass. If you'd like, you can use textured materials on your glass as well to make a stained glass effect. It's all up to your creativity, really. So just fast forwarding a little bit to the finished look. And just to recap a little bit, the different parts can be colored slightly differently. As you can see there, we have a little portion of the wall above the door that is not quite matching with the rest of the pattern. So what I'm doing here is I'm extending it up a little bit and lowering it a little bit down so it matches a lot better. So just to rewind that. And lowering it down so now it actually matches with the pattern with the rest of the wall. Sometimes, because the texture actually has pronounced lines and squares, that could happen, but it usually is pretty easy to fix. And on the other side, as you can see, our windows, and even something as regular items like these blinds here, they can be extended, they can be deformed, so you can make your blinds and curtains fit exactly the size and shape of your windows. And all the colors you've seen there on the furniture can be recolored as well. Simply recolor one and then copy your texture and paste the same color, the same material over to make it look cohesive and nice. Now we are over in the kitchen. So we do have some decor items that we can place, and this is just to demonstrate how you can actually fill in all the different shelves, and even something like this little pot there, it is scalable, it can be deformed however you like, you can make it oval if you want. So a lot of customization, it's all completely up to you. When you're placing items, as you could have noticed there, I was lifting the item up and it snaps down to the bottom. That is another keybind we have set to end key and as a button right next to delete. It's going to basically take any item that is hovering up in the air and snap it down to any surface level. Just by copy pasting the same item over and over, you can fill up your kitchen quite neatly. And the mug was there quite large for some reason, so I made it a little smaller, moved it up, moved it towards the shelf press end to snap it to the bottom, scale it down a little bit more, And just to create a look of a realistic kitchen, we're going to copy them over because there's no way only one person lives in this huge house here. And to add some variation, a bit more, make it look lived in, let's make these mugs a little less perfect. Now I'm going to show you how to do the floors. As you can see right now, in different parts of the house we actually have the same flooring, but if you want to have different kind of covering in your kitchen, in your washroom, in any of the rooms, just pull out another flooring item and scale it to the size of your room. Now you can go back into the design feature and pick a different material, a different surface, and put it down on your floor. You can rescale it to fit your idea of the perfect texture. You can make it more or less saturated, you can change the brightness. With normal you can see the form there popping up, that was a little too much, so I scaled it down. Specular and metallic is going to make it look shiny and reflective. Don't forget to reduce the roughness if you want it to be shiny though. Now, because it is the kitchen, it is nice to have the kind of flooring that is easier to clean where the cooking surfaces are, so I'm pulling out yet another piece of flooring and scaling it just to fit exactly where the cooker and prep area is. And I'm going to use our under plastic linoleum texture with completely flat normal map, and change the color using the tint and desaturation to vaguely match the color of the tile that I see on the wall. So even within the same room you can have different textures of the flooring and of the walls in different sections. Just don't forget to actually use a separate chunk, a separate piece of flooring and walls to make that happen. Now to decorate the walls a little bit, I'm going to be using another feature that is within the walls menu of our building editor. As you can see, there are sections for walls, corners, dividers, and blocks. Those blocks are very interesting things. They are different shapes that have even more customization freedom to an extent than other items, because you can actually rotate them in any direction. A lot of other construction items, due to the restrictions of snapping and alignment, they cannot be rotated in any direction you want for those reasons, just to make sure that snapping still works. And for these blocks, they don't have snapping, but they have a lot more degrees of freedom of movement and scaling and rotation. So you can use them basically to DIY any shapes, decor, any kind of items you want. They are basically building blocks that you can use to construct anything that you imagine. So right now I'm using the basic block, the rectangular one, to create little shelves inside the circle where I could decorate things on the walls. Scale it down, make it flat, copy it over so I have two shelves within the circle on the walls. Go into design menu. I'm just going to pick a basic flat texture and copy it over everywhere, kind of going with this very modern, very simple, minimalistic vibe for this house. And I'm into the items mode in decor. I'm just going to place little items here. Well, right now it's not little, it's a perfectly reasonable planter, but because I want it on the shelf, I'm going to scale it all the way down. Move it to the shelf, change the scaling method, snap it to the surface, make it a little less squished looking. Going to add a little painting to the wall to the shelf, I mean. Everything, every little item can be rescaled, can be changed, and you can redesign it to fit whatever idea you have. So going into the design menu on this little picture frame, I can actually not just change the frame itself. I'm going to use a different kind of normal material to make it look textured and interesting, so it's not just a flat, boring white frame. And going back into design, actually changing the picture itself. We will eventually add an ability for our players to import their own textures into the game, so if you want to change pictures or photos in your custom build, you will eventually be able to do that as well. It's not currently possible in this demo, but we are working on it right now. That's the final look of the little decoration pieces I've added on the wall. I've recolored the shelves themselves into the wooden texture, just copied it over from the door and cabinets in the kitchen so it looks more cohesive. And you can pretty much add any small little item on there. Now into our big living room, I'm going to add a couch. And as I've already mentioned, everything is perfectly customizable, even the big soft items like couches, beds, chairs, and so on. As you can see in our design menu, we have lots of different categories. The ones with large letters on the left hand side where you can see W, S, M, P, those are different categories like wood, steel, metal, plastic, panels, fabric, laminate, and a lot of different options. Currently we are in a fabric section where we have cotton, synthetic, denim, wool, and so on, and of course we will have more varieties coming in as you play. As you can see there, just by changing the texture and the normal map, I completely changed the look of the couch. So it is the way you see items when you pull them out of the inventory isn't permanent. It's not the only way they can look. It's up to your imagination. I actually kind of liked the original way the couch looked, so I'm going to reverse that. Just hit cancel, go back into design, select the couch. I do like the blue coloring there, so I'm going to keep that, and the reflective shiny finish on the couch. That looks pretty neat. And I'm going to go and recolor the pillows. As you can see, each pillow individually can be recolored. They have different materials on them. So I'm going to go ahead and pick some of the textured buttons that fit the coloring of the couch itself. Since we're going with more of a nautical theme with sea outside, I'm going to use matching colors. And if you want all of them to be different, it's again up to you. You have perfect freedom of creativity there. The last material is for the little feet, so you can even change color of those. And as you can see, they're all really quite textured and realistic. So that's what it looks like right now. This is what we currently have looking outside of the living room. I wanted to show you what it looks like when you have different sections of the wall, kind of one on top of the other. As you can see, what looks like a painting there in the center of the wall, that is not actually painting. I have one portion of the wall painted in a different texture than everything else to create this painting effect. So what I've done simply there, I used 3 different wall sections, a bottom wall section, a middle wall section, and the top. The middle wall section is painted with a different texture than the rest of the room to create this kind of painting effect. And a little simple table with magazines and vases on the bottom. That's it closer from a different perspective. And now let's talk a bit more about nature and the world our game is set in. Again, it's looking a bit empty right now because we're still working on it. It is just a demo version. It's all going to be filled in with all manners of plants and even little creatures like fish and wildlife. We have this beautiful waterfall here. We really worked hard on making the water look as good as we can possibly make it. It is a little bit noisy though, so if any of you can let us know in chat if that would bother you while playing, while building the houses, if you want to have a lot for building right next to this waterfall, please let us know and we'll definitely add it. Yeah, again, if you want to see any specific item or feature added into the game, just let us know and we'll see what we can do for you. That's our lake. You can hover above or underwater. You can check out and explore all the little features we have added to our game. There will be more about exploration than you can see right now. We are going to add more little hidden items that you can find and actually unlock extra features, extra textures just by finding different stones and minerals and different kind of magical mysterious trees in the game. So there will be gameplay added there in terms of exploration. Many of the areas that are right now empty will definitely be filled in, not just with lots where you can build in, but also public areas like public buildings, different kinds of park, recreational facilities, and we do plan to allow our players not just build housing, but also public areas like restaurants, shops, parks, and all manner of different buildings. So all of this beauty that you are seeing right now on your screens, that is currently available in the demo version, and all around it we are working on building different kinds of facilities like children's playgrounds and so on and so forth. And you will be able eventually to change and build your own public places and edit the ones we've added to the game. The freedom and customizability is something that we definitely strive for in our game right now. And since it is a different planet, the game is set on the planet of Trinity, you will see a lot of fantasy-like plants and stones, different kinds of minerals added into the game, and so you will definitely be able to play it as if it was regular Earth, but you will also be able to make it look more fantasy-like. All the different hills and rocks right now, they don't have a huge amount of playable area, but we are going to add more lots for you to build on top of those hills, and the mountains will have different kinds of caves for you to explore as well, on land as well as underneath, under water as well. This is one of our currently available, unfortunately not playable, but it is in game right now, one of the public areas. It's a park with an operations center. So the lore of the game tells you more about how this game came to be. It is going to have a continuation. So the operations center is by the first settlers that came onto this planet called Trinity, and it is connecting the spaceship that they came here on with the land as they are building their first settlement. The reason why it looks a bit empty is exactly because it is just sound of the game a bit more. So if the sound is too much or too little for you, please let me know in chat and I can adjust it on the fly. I'm sorry for little inconsistencies like that with technical issues. Again, we are not professional streamers here, we're doing our best. As you can see right now, what is footage of is the plaza, where you have all the different first level buildings of the settlers, like the data center, the library, the shop. That is our beauty salon right there. And the gym. That's where security and the fire department would be. The science center and the shop. As you can see right now, those buildings are a little empty looking, but that is because we plan to allow you as our players to fill them out. We worked quite hard on the graphics of this game. We are using Unreal Engine 5, and it is quite extraordinary what you can create there. We are going for a sci-fi futuristic look, but within the meshes and different items of our game, if you want to change the style, if you want to build something more traditional looking, it will be available for you as well. We are working also on creating more new varieties of nature items like trees and bushes and little creatures, like little animals and fish. They're going to be added into the game as well. We have lots of plans that we just couldn't implement for this beta demo right now because of some of the time constraints. And certain features just simply need to be updated with to work with the newest version of the engine. Everything you see right now, that is all going to be part of our exploration in the future, where you'll be able to look underground, scavenge for those extra resources, find new, rare, futuristic and fantasy-like textures to use for the items in game. Currently it's a bit empty looking, but we're working on filling everything out. There will be more expansions coming to the land you see right now. That is just a small portion of the first city, first settlement that we are planning. We are going to be expanding. This is not the only area you will be able to build on. As you can see there, our big red sun in the sky and the beautiful pink trees. There will be more interesting and fantasy-like stuff added to the game for sure. They will all have different kind of mysterious properties as well. Can't really say anything about the details right now. That will be for you to find out in the future. You see all of these beautiful distant hills. We are also considering how we can allow players to have a freedom to create and build on top of those hills and rocks. Some of those are hiding some extra features and extra areas that are going to be added into the game in the future. It will all be expanded and will be extra beautiful when we turn on the weather system, and you'll be able to zoom out and see the beautiful sunrises and sunsets. This is just a sneak peek into the little new area that we are working on as well. If you want to know anything more, you can also go ahead and find our website, TrinityVideoGame.com, and where we talk more about all the different things we want to implement in our game. That is a bit more about our building that we've been creating. That's the outside of it right now. And we are heading to the end of our stream. I really want to talk to you guys some more. So if you have any more questions, any other requests, pop them down into the comments of the video. After we finish with the video right now, with the stream, I'm gonna keep the video going, so if you were curious about something and didn't quite catch it, you can definitely stick around and watch it again. And again, the live stream itself with my voiceover is recorded. It is going to be uploaded onto our YouTube channel as quickly as we can. So you can definitely watch it again in the future. So the pre-recorded portion is currently over, but if you want to see anything specific, if you have any requests, if you want to see me build stuff in game, just pop it down into the comment section. Otherwise, I'm just gonna loop it and play it over so you can watch it again. Or even better, right now the demo is available on our Steam page, so you can go download it and try all the features we have discussed here today for yourself. And if something is not clear, if it's hard to understand how to get something working, just get in touch with us. We'll be really glad to talk to you guys, either on Steam community page or through email or our social media. We are always present. Thank you so much for you guys to sticking around. I've been really happy to host this stream for you. And have a good evening.